The chapter begins with Joo Seo-Cheon on his deathbed. From his childhood, he was very poor and survived on the streets. And through sheer luck, he was able to get into the Hwasan faction. And from there he made it into the top one of the elders. Although he didn't consider himself worthy of that position. Joo Seo-Cheon further explains that he was able to become an elder as it was impossible to find someone to fill the seat during the war age. Joo Seo-Cheon recalls that he spends most of his time studying Murin in Hwasan faction. But thanks to that, he was promoted after being chosen as an elder. Joo Seo-Cheon regretted wasting his life as he wasn't able to find his love. He spent most of his time training and practicing martial arts and couldn't even hold a woman's hand. He died on his deathbed regretting how he wasted his life. Seo-Cheon wakes up and is surprised to see his master, Jung, standing before him. He is astonished and asks how this is possible. Jung explains that just a few days ago, Seo-Cheon was crying because of him, yet now he is awake and talking in his sleep. Seo-Cheon realizes that something unbelievable has happened. He is Joo Seo-Cheon, an 8-year-old child and the 4th-generation pupil within the Hwasan faction. Jung is a middle-aged 3rd-generation pupil of the Hwasan faction. Seo-Cheon is certain that he has traveled back in time. He reflects on the past few days of doubt and confusion but has finally come to the conclusion that he has returned to Hwasan as a child, before the days when blood soaked the flowers and the world was filled with warriors preparing for war. Seo-Cheon is determined to make the most of this opportunity. Although he is unsure of how he traveled back or who sent him, he knows that it doesn't matter now. He has decided that with the memories from his past life, he can use them to his advantage and live a new life. Having risen to the position of an elder in his previous life, Seo-Cheon possesses knowledge of the Murim alliance and the secrets of the Hwasan faction. He is also aware of every incident that will occur from this day forward. He reaffirms his determination to succeed. As a member of the Hwasan faction, Seo-Cheon must adhere to the regimented training set by the faction. He acknowledges that in his previous life, he was a powerful figure, but now he is just a child of 8 years old. Within the Hwasan faction, there is no concept of freedom for a child. They must all follow strict rules and regulations. Seo-Cheon expresses frustration at having to go through the arduous training once again. He recognizes that the training is tough and refers to the path to the training center for 4th-generation pupils as Nak in Hell. Seo-Cheon realizes that he has a long way to go before reaching the training center. Chapter 2. A year had passed, and Seo-Cheon had turned 9 years old. Despite feeling awkward being treated like a child, he didn't mind it when his master congratulated him. His master informed him that since he was now big enough, he had to start doing things on his own. Finally, Seo-Cheon could train without his master watching over him, but he still had to endure the grueling trials of Nak in Hell. Understanding that the human brain has its limitations and can easily forget things, Seo-Cheon decided to document all the important events that would occur in the future. The following morning, he ventured out into the courtyard and recollected a memory from 66 years ago. It was about a prodigious individual within the Hwasan faction who had unraveled the secrets of Meiwa Ki Kong, the fundamental martial arts technique known to everyone in the Hwasan faction but whose inner workings remained mysterious. Seo-Cheon positioned himself beneath the Meiwa tree and began to meditate. The tree possessed an energy that he could absorb, and as he connected with it, he explained that he wasn't depleting the tree of its energy. If that were the case, the tree would have perished long ago. Instead, he merely borrowed its energy. Seo-Cheon further elaborated that Ki existed not only in animals but also in plants. He believed that by enhancing the limited speed and capacity of Meiwa Ki Kong, he would attain the highest recognition and appraisal. However, he had no desire for such recognition, so he chose not to suppress the flow of Meiwa Ki Kong since no one was present. As a result, he achieved a remarkable 5-star level in Meiwa Ki Kong. Word of Seo-Cheon's accomplishment reached his third-generation trainer, Master Chol-Woong. Upon hearing that Seo-Cheon had reached the 5-star level in Meiwa Ki Kong, Chol-Woong decided to teach him the techniques of Meiwa. He initiated their training with fist techniques and noticed that Seo-Cheon differed from others in his willingness to learn swordsmanship right away, which impressed Chol-Woong. The following day, as Seo-Cheon meditated beneath the Meiwa tree, a group of bullies approached him and began mocking him. Growing weary of their behavior, he slowly rose to his feet and uttered, "There's no greater evil than children." Determined to teach them a lesson that would dissuade them from bothering him again, he lunged at one of the boys. Seo-Cheon skillfully evaded the punches thrown at him and delivered a powerful kick to the boy's stomach. Undeterred, the other boys attempted to strike him, but with his mastery of the Meiwa technique, Seo-Cheon effortlessly dominated the confrontation. Chapter 3 The following morning, Seo-Cheon returned to his spot beneath the Meiwa tree to engage in meditation. Remarkably, at just 8 years old, he managed to acquire the experience equivalent to 6 months of training in the span of a single month. Not only that, but he also developed core energy, showcasing his rapid progress. Throughout the course of a year, he dedicated himself to accumulating Meiwa Ki Kong through diligent practice, accomplishing what would typically take others a whole month. Seo-Cheon even achieved mastery in the Meiwa Foss technique, a feat that usually required significant time and effort. Standing up, Seo-Cheon prepared himself for further training. However, he was interrupted by the boy he had defeated earlier, who arrived accompanied by his own master. The boy's master inquired if Seo-Cheon was the one who had an affinity for Meiwa. Seo-Cheon politely greeted the boy's master and revealed that he was at the same level as Yoo, a notable figure in their field. The boy's master then questioned Seo-Cheon about the conflict between him and his pupil. Seo-Cheon denied any wrongdoing and insisted that it was actually the boy's pupil who had disrupted his training. Unfortunately, the boy claimed that Seo-Cheon had launched a surprise attack on him. Seo-Cheon made another attempt to explain the situation, emphasizing that it was his training that was disturbed by the boy's pupil. However, in a shocking turn of events, the boy's master slapped Seo-Cheon. Before the master could strike him again, Seo-Cheon's own master, Yoo intervening to stop the bully's master from slapping Seo-Cheon. He grabs the master's hand to prevent him from harming Seo-Cheon. The bully's master expresses his annoyance at Yoo interference and tries to free himself from Yoo grip. The bully's master accuses Seo-Cheon of committing violent actions and lying to cover it up. Seo-Cheon denies the accusations and explains that he was training alone. Yoo defends his pupil, stating that Seo-Cheon is not someone who would engage in such behavior. The bully's master challenges Yoo statement and accuses him of lying. Yoo stands his ground and calmly asserts that he believes in his pupil without getting agitated. The bully's master becomes more aggressive and takes a stance to attack Yoo with a sword. Yoo confronts him and questions if he really wants to go through with their confrontation. Yoo unwavering stance and intense gaze make the bully's master reconsider his actions. He backs down, claiming that he got too excited and forgives Seo-Cheon. However, Yoo starts coughing, indicating that he overexerted himself during the confrontation. Seo-Cheon becomes worried about his master's health, recalling how Yoo died in his previous life due to sickness. He realizes the truth and the significance of the situation. He remembers that in 5 years' time, when he is 14, his master departs from the world because of her illness. He recalls Yoo nickname, the possession blade, given to her because she always smiled despite her weak body. Seo-Cheon acknowledges his master's talents for martial arts, but her chronic illness prevented her from fully utilizing her skills. He cannot forget what happened that day and is determined not to lose his master again. Seo-Cheon resolves to do whatever he can to prevent her untimely demise. Chapter 4 Seo-Cheon, who is faced with 2 significant tasks. The first task is to change the fate of his master, who is predicted to pass away in the next 5 years. The second task is to obtain the legendary Note of Three Spiritual Minds. The note belonged to a renowned thief from 300 years ago, who was active for almost a century but disappeared without leaving any trace except for his writings. However, 6 years prior to the present time in the story, the legendary note is discovered, causing a frenzy among people who start flocking to the treasure site. Seo-Cheon realizes that he needs to collect the treasure before it's too late, as obtaining it would grant him wealth and help him secure his future. Unfortunately, he is confined to his current location for the next 6 years, making it difficult for him to carry out his plans. Despite being close to adulthood, he lacks the freedom to navigate within the Hwasan faction. Seo-Cheon contemplates different options to achieve his goals. He considers seeking help from a doctor known for rejecting requests from Urim leaders and elders. Recalling the doctor's obsession with rare medical books, Seo-Cheon considers using a bait in the library to lure him. However, he realizes that the doctor won't be easily convinced by rumors alone. In a moment of insight, Seo-Cheon realizes that obtaining medicinal herbs, particularly a fruit found near Hwasan 20 years in the future, could serve as a valuable bargaining tool. He remembers that the fruit has the power to enhance one's martial arts abilities and can also be used for medicinal purposes. Seo-Cheon decides to search for the fruit in a water cave located not far from his current location. With the fruit in mind, Seo-Cheon embarks on a journey to find it. He attempts to escape from the Hwasan faction and navigate through rat holes to reach his destination. Although the journey is physically challenging, he manages to arrive in time at a lake located in the forest, where the fruit is said to be found. Seo-Cheon hesitates, feeling unsure about entering the lake, but his determination to save his master pushes him forward. After entering the lake, Seo-Cheon finds a cave within it and decides to explore further. However, he faces extreme cold and struggles to survive. Using his energy to create heat, he perseveres and eventually finds the mythical creature, a snake, wrapped around a large tree inside the cave. Chapter 5 After encountering the mythical snake and successfully obtaining the fruit, Seo-Cheon returns to the Hwasan faction and waits for his master, Jung, to enter the room. Seo-Cheon is concerned about how to present the fruit to his master without arousing suspicion. He contemplates various excuses, such as claiming to have found it on the streets, but ultimately decides that it is for his master's well-being and resolves to offer it to her. When Jung enters the room, Seo-Cheon notices that she has been deep in thought. He suggests that seeking help from someone else might be beneficial if she is unable to solve her problem alone. Seo-Cheon talks to himself, acknowledging that his master might become suspicious, but he remains determined to convince her to take the fruit. Jung questions Seo-Cheon about the origin of the fruit, asking if he stole it, took it, or tricked someone to obtain it. Seo-Cheon denies each possibility, assuring his master that he would never engage in such behavior. Jung then asks how Seo-Cheon found the fruit, prompting him to explain the circumstances. Seo-Cheon hesitates but eventually starts to recount his journey and the challenges he faced in obtaining the fruit. Jung realizes that Seo-Cheon ventured outside of Hwasan and stumbled upon the fruit. She perceives his actions as stealing from her and sees it in his expression. Seo-Cheon attempts to explain himself, but Jung interrupts, assuring him that she trusts him. Seo-Cheon is surprised and questions why she believes him without any proof. Jung replies that if a master does not trust her pupil, then who should she trust? She reveals that she noticed a change in him since that day and acknowledges that he has been trying to hide it. Jung believes in Seo-Cheon's motives and thanks him. Seo-Cheon expresses his gratitude to his master for understanding and supporting him. Jung then asks Seo-Cheon to defend her. She sits down and begins to meditate, experiencing a powerful effect from consuming the fruit. However, she also senses that her bodily functions are shutting down, and she worries about leaving Seo-Cheon behind at such a young age. Determined not to leave him alone, Yoo Jong-mak refuses to succumb to the physical effects and fights to stay alive while meditating. Chapter 6 Yoo Jong-mak, the master, completing his meditation in Seo-Cheon, his disciple, approaching him with concern. Seo-Cheon is relieved that his master is safe and asks about what happened. Yoo Jong-mak explains that his life was in danger due to a depletion of his natural life force ki. He describes natural life force ki as a specific type of ki that people are born with, which is considered the purest form of ki source. Once depleted, it cannot be replenished, leading to death or permanent damage. Yoo Jong-mak reveals that the issue with his natural life force ki was caused by a cracked bowl that contained it. Seo-Cheon is puzzled by the mention of a bowl but suddenly recalls his past life where his master had died. He realizes that the future has changed, and his master's life has been saved. Overwhelmed with joy, Seo-Cheon embraces his master and expresses his relief at the turn of events. Yoo Jong-mak apologizes for causing Seo-Cheon to worry and insists on giving him something. Seo-Cheon is surprised and hesitant to accept the gift, but his master insists, believing that Seo-Cheon may need it more than he does. Eventually, Seo-Cheon agrees to receive the gift, and Yoo Jong-mak goes outside to eat the fruit he has given him. While consuming the fruit, Seo-Cheon contemplates his training in the plum blossom ki arts. He plans to practice these techniques secretly to avoid drawing attention to himself and attracting unwanted attention. He also reveals his intention to learn the purple haze arts, a move passed down only to the supreme elders within the Hwasan faction. Seo-Cheon believes that mastering this move will allow him to remain hidden while being powerful and unstoppable. After a month of consuming the fruit and absorbing the surrounding energy, Seo-Cheon reflects on the progress he has made. He realizes that his body couldn't fully handle the fruit's properties but acknowledges the significant impact it had on his blood and ki channels. Seo-Cheon is pleased with the results and recognizes the incredible power of the fruit. Yoo Jong-mak commends Seo-Cheon on his achievements and suggests they begin enhancement exercises. These exercises aim to exhaust Seo-Cheon's accumulated inner ki and strengthen his body. Seo-Cheon expresses concern about the pain and the possibility of death, but Yoo Jong-mak assures him that the pain will pass and that he has gone through similar challenges in the past. Seo-Cheon accepts the pain and promises not to become lazy. He realizes that he is already ahead and doesn't want to disappoint his master. He also understands that his master's intentions are to prevent him from becoming lazy due to the accumulated inner ki. Yoo Jong-mak apologizes once again for causing Seo-Cheon pain and encourages him to hate him if necessary. He wants Seo-Cheon to push forward and believes in his disciple's abilities. Chapter 7 Yoo Jong-mak praising Seo-Cheon for his excellent job in climbing the cliff. Seo-Cheon, however, expresses his hatred for the cliff and asks Yoo Jong-mak to stop supporting him. He rests after the exercise and while sleeping, he talks to himself about how the repetitive training helped him grow taller and achieve a great level of the plum blossom arts. Yoo Jong-mak calls Seo-Cheon out and informs him that he will be teaching him swordsmanship. Seo-Cheon, in his internal monologue, contemplates whether his master, Yoo Jong-mak, has reached the peak of his abilities. He remembers that his master passed away right before reaching the peak and realizes that what his master lacks is enlightenment. Seo-Cheon decides to help his master achieve enlightenment because he believes his master deserves to achieve the highest state possible. A week later, during their swordsmanship training, Yoo Jong-mak is amazed by Seo-Cheon's skills and considers him a genius. Seo-Cheon, however, knows that he is not a genius but rather someone who retained his past knowledge from being reborn. Yoo Jong-mak realizes that with Seo-Cheon's skill, he might be able to pass the Lotus Unit, a prestigious milestone in their martial arts practice. Seo-Cheon respectfully asks his master to show him a sword art other than the plum blossom sword art. Yoo Jong-mak agrees and decides to demonstrate the 14 plum blossom sword art. Before showing it, he asks Seo-Cheon if he knows anything about this sword art. Seo-Cheon confidently explains the origins and moves of the 14 plum blossom sword art. Yoo performs the plum blossom technique, but Seo-Cheon notices that his master struggles after a certain point. He realizes that it is not enlightenment but workmanship that his master lacks. Seo-Cheon respectfully asks his master to perform the technique slower, understanding that purposely slowing down a technique requires great concentration. Seo-Cheon's observation leads him to realize an imbalance of the 5 elements in his master's martial arts. He deduces that the fruit Yoo ate, which saved his life, has caused an imbalance, particularly in the water element. This imbalance hinders Yoo progress to the next stage. Seo-Cheon acknowledges that Yoo is a diligent and hard worker, but sometimes his earnestness can become a limitation. Yoo has a realization that sometimes one must lay everything down, and he acknowledges that it was Seo-Cheon who taught him this lesson. Seo-Cheon congratulates his master on his achievement. Meanwhile, in the emperor's palace, the elders discuss Yoo progress. They mention how they believed in his abilities and how he not only healed his weak body but also improved it. They consider conducting a proper examination as a result of the changes in the future brought about by Yoo achievements. The chapter ends with the realization that the future has once again changed due to the progress and transformation of Yoo and his dedicated student, Seo-Cheon. Chapter 8. The story continues as Yoo informs Seo-Cheon that he has been assigned a mission. Seo-Cheon eagerly asks about it, and Yoo reassures him not to worry too much as it is not a significant mission. He also mentions that he has enrolled Seo-Cheon in the Lotus Unit evaluation and believes that Seo-Cheon will be able to pass it easily. However, Yoo tells him not to feel burdened and that it's alright if he doesn't make it. Seo-Cheon feels incredibly burdened by the upcoming evaluation and expresses his concerns to himself. He reflects on how in his previous life, he had wanted to be part of the Lotus Unit, but now he is unsure if he should pursue it. He also reminds himself not to lose focus on the 3 spiritual minds, which he knows will be discovered 5 years later. However, he realizes that he needs to quickly enter the tournament of strength within the next year or 2 to achieve his goals. On the day of the Lotus Unit evaluation, Seo-Cheon finds himself among other participants. Some of them express their anxiety and doubts, while others recognize Seo-Cheon as Yoo pupil. Seo-Cheon observes the reactions around him and confidently believes that he can pass the evaluation without using his full strength. He is also aware of Nak Sewol, the plum blossom sword phoenix, who is part of the Great 5 Masters of Hwasan and a descendant of the Transcendence Master of the Blood and Iron Sword. Seo-Cheon acknowledges her skills but also notes that she died before the age of 20, feeling unlucky to have to face her in the evaluation. As Nak Sewol defeats her opponent with a single strike, the participants express their dismay and mention that there is still the next year for them. Seo-Cheon, however, steps forward and announces his intention to compete. The others question his decision, thinking he is thoughtless or unaware of Nak Sewol's prowess because he is Yoo pupil. Seo-Cheon confidently approaches the stage to face Nak Sewol. The participants comment on his foolishness and expect him to be embarrassed. Seo-Cheon asks the announcer if he can start immediately, and Nak Sewol wishes him luck. They both assume their attacking stances, with Nak Sewol granting Seo-Cheon the first attack. The judges express skepticism, thinking that the fight will end quickly. However, Seo-Cheon charges at Nak Sewol with incredible speed, surprising her. She quickly steps back to defend herself, acknowledging Seo-Cheon's amazing internal force. She realizes she needs to think about his next move. In a sudden move, Seo-Cheon jumps and attacks Nak Sewol, leaving her in surprise. Chapter 9. Joo Seo-Cheon jumps and attacks Nak Sewol, defeating her in a battle. The announcement is made, declaring Seo-Cheon as the winner, but the other participants express their disbelief and criticize the victory. They argue that Seo-Cheon's win was merely a display of strength rather than true swordsmanship. Seo-Cheon, however, anticipated this reaction and feels uneasy about how this outcome might affect his master's honor. He contemplates the consequences of his victory and its impact on his reputation and position within the Murim faction, a martial arts society. The scene then shifts to an elders' meeting room, where important figures in the Murim faction gather to discuss Seo-Cheon's victory and its implications. Blood and Iron Sword welder Shin Ryan expresses her disapproval of Seo-Cheon's inclusion in the Lotus Unit, a prestigious group within the Murim faction. She argues that allowing someone who insulted a Hwasan sword wielder into the unit is unacceptable. The Great Palm Zo Muyang agrees with Elder Shim, supporting her stance against Seo-Cheon. However, elixir maker Jung interjects with a light-hearted comment, urging the others not to trouble Elder Hack too much and suggesting they listen to Seo-Cheon's story. He also mentions rumors of an elixir being ingested by Soyu sword wielder's pupil, sparking curiosity about its potential effects. Plum Blossom Sword Master Ui Jikvul decides to give Seo-Cheon a chance and allows him to join the Lotus Unit, along with Nak So-Woo. Despite objections from Elder Shim, it is decided that only these two will be admitted. The meeting concludes with this decision. The story then jumps 1 year ahead, and Seo-Cheon is shown meditating under a tree. Nak So-Woo approaches him, but he warns her that her sudden appearance might disrupt his concentration and lead to chi deviation, a dangerous state for practitioners of martial arts. Nak So-Woo apologizes, and they engage in a conversation where she asks Seo-Cheon about his skills and whether his usual displays are his true abilities. Seo-Cheon confirms that what she sees is his original skill. He also mentions Elder Shim Ryan's dislike for him and advises Nak So-Woo to keep her distance. Seo-Cheon then reminisces about his past and how he admired Nak So-Woo, who was considered one of the most talented and beautiful artists in the Murim faction. He reveals his own lack of courage to approach her due to her skill and reputation. Their conversation is interrupted by a senior brother, who confronts Seo-Cheon and accuses him of disobeying his request to stay away from Nak So-Woo. Seo-Cheon tries to explain that he was only relaying a message from their teacher, but the senior brother remains skeptical. Seo-Cheon endures the senior brother's insults and reminds himself to endure a little longer, hinting at a future event or development. Later, Seo-Cheon visits elixir maker Jung, who comments on his impressive internal force and progress in martial arts. Jung jokingly scolds Seo-Cheon for selfishly sharing an elixir with the weakling he mentions, referring to their past actions. Seo-Cheon defends the weakling and dismisses Jung's teasing, highlighting his young age. Jung playfully continues to tease Seo-Cheon but eventually reveals that he has news about Seo-Cheon's master. Seo-Cheon expresses his gratitude towards Jung and prepares to leave, knowing that it is time for him to prove himself as a member of the Lotus Unit. The chapter ends with Seo-Cheon's excitement and determination, as he realizes that the long-awaited moment to showcase his skills and make his master proud has finally arrived.